Hey everyone, welcome back to the Nello Reads channel. Our first malicious compliance story of the day comes from Cawthor, Sproing Goes the Shocks. So, once upon a time, I used to work for a large hardware chain that had aprons that beautifully matched my pumpkin-esque figure. I worked in a busy flooring department and could share many a story about it, but the most delightful one came from people overestimating the abilities of their vehicles. Pros would come in with appropriate vehicles and expectations, while DIYers would occasionally come in with a disdain for aproned associates. Our location had seen enough DIYers come through that we had a cover your butt form we'd developed. Well, one fine day, a man came in a rush and demanded the promptest of service, was annoyed at any and all project advice, and took offense when we offered delivery service. He'd chosen a nice slate tile and wanted a pallet for his house. We rang up the sale and brought the pallet to the drive-up area. He pulled up in his new Ford F-150. No reinforced trailer, just the truck. That truck can carry roughly 2,000 pounds, give or take. The pallet was about 3,800 pounds. I told him that we would need to break open the pallet, he could take half right away, and the other half later. The man went ballistic. They could hear him back in lighting. After some back and forth, and a few other managers coming by and strongly advising him that his truck could not take the pallet, he was screaming and foaming at the mouth. I shrugged, grabbed the form, discussed the portion, saying he was ignoring our advice and he absolves our company and its employees of any responsibility for the outcome. He signs it, settles down, and our forklift starts to bring the pallet down on this poor truck. Once the shocks had bottomed out, I called for the forklift operator to stop, showed the guy, the operator confirmed only half of the load weight had been transferred, and we gave him a final chance to reconsider. No such luck. I indicated for the forklift driver to continue, and there was no immediate catastrophic failure. The customer thinks we're morons. Well, nearly everyone in the store, including many a chuckling pro customer, is hanging out at the doors watching. This guy gets in his truck, calling out a thanks to us, expletive, expletive, expletive morons, then drives a whole 6 feet before, blam, shocks blew and his rear axle bent in a bit. He came out screaming at us. Well, I held the paper and pointed up at the security camera that looked over the area. He declined my offer to call a tow truck. I don't really know much about insurance, but insurance probably won't cover that, right? I have a feeling that either way, his insurance company will get a call from him screaming about how it should be covered and it's somehow their fault. Our next story comes from Secret Northern MILF. Insist on ordering food despite having the wrong number? Fine by me. This happened when I still lived with my parents over 20 years ago in a small town just outside a small city. As a teenager with a bit of social anxiety, I would spend most Friday and Saturday nights at home watching movies, playing Lego, or computer games. Often, my parents would go out into the city as there was nothing to do in the town, so I would be home alone until late at night. Our landline phone number was very similar to that of the local Chinese takeaway and taxi company. I won't give the exact numbers, but to give an idea, our house was 122222. The Chinese takeaway was 122221, and the taxi firm was 122122. So, in a Friday/Saturday night drunken state, it was very easy to misdial. 99% of callers would apologize once advised that they had the wrong number, and I would even be able to tell them the correct number to dial. The 1%, however, were a mess to deal with. The instance that I recall and fits this sub goes as follows. Hello? Hi, I'd like to order 1 sweet and sour, 1 chow mein. I'm sorry, this is the wrong number. No, this is the Chinese place. Although they used a common racist term often used back in the far from politically correct 90s, northeastern ex-mining villages. I'm sorry, it really isn't. You need to call 1-2... Yes, it is. So take my order now. Fine. What do you want? The caller tells me his order. Okay, are you collecting or want this delivered? Delivered, and quickly. Okay, it'll be about 30 minutes. Hangs up. 45 minutes later, the phone rings, I answer, and there is one hangry customer on the phone. "I'm sorry, you didn't leave your address for the delivery, and 1471 didn't work." UK readers will know this, but it's basically a service to call back your last received caller. "So we waited for you to call back. Food will be another 30 minutes. I ask for an address and hang up." 45 minutes later, another hangry call was received. Only this time, they were a little drunker and ruder. I fess up that I've been stringing them along, but they insisted that I was a Chinese takeaway and ordered me to take their order again. Unfortunately, at this point, the restaurant was now closed, so I guess they went to bed without their food. They never called back, so hopefully they learned a lesson too. While reading this, I was like, there's no way this could actually happen, especially after OP corrected the guy calling, but then he mentioned that the guy who called had been drinking. It kinda all makes sense now. The third story comes from No Push 5003. "Oh, you mean right now? Okay, let me, 25 male, introduce you to the key players in this story. First, we have my dog. She is a service animal, and as a result is very well trained. Up next, my annoying and petty neighbors. I live in a small duplex with an even smaller front yard that isn't fenced in. The only thing separating the duplex and the neighbor's house is a very narrow driveway. It's important to note that when I refer to the neighbors, I am not referring to the residents of the connecting unit of the duplex, but the owners of the house a driveway over. My neighbors have a history of annoying behavior. For starters, they are extremely socially awkward. They watch over us like hawks, have never been able to hold a conversation with us despite us being friendly and trying, and are some of the most passive-aggressive people on Earth. Maybe it's because we're college-aged and they have something against the Utes, but for whatever the reason, they have it out for us. The neighbors have called our landlords to tell them that we are partying at all hours of the night. The family, with infants in the connecting unit, the unit that shares a wall with us, have never once complained. When the landlord asked them about these complaints, they always denied it. For reference, aside from me, none of the other residents of the house ever drink. I drink on occasion, once every few months, but never at the house, out of respect for the sober people. The neighbors called the city over the course of several months, and got one side of the street turned into a no parking zone, because we have 4 cars in total, 1 for each person that lives in our unit, and have to park on the street. This, I guess, obstructed their view. As a result, we started parking in front of their house on the legal side of the street. One day, while we were gone, they moved their truck from their driveway, that has ample parking, to the street to block us from parking there. Their truck didn't move for about 6 months. Anytime my dog goes number 2 in the yard and it sits for more than a few hours, they call the landlord to report it. Because of my disability, I can't always get to it immediately. My landlord understands this, and understands how the neighbors are, so she has stopped saying anything aside from laughing with me about how ridiculous/annoying these people are. This is just a short list of my grievances with our neighbors. I could go on, but by now you get the point. Well, yesterday morning, I let my dog out as usual. I was in my underwear, which are thin and tight-fitting, as I had just rolled out of bed. Let's just say they don't hide much of anything. I'm standing in the doorway where my neighbor's house is blocked from my view. As my dog is sniffing around in our yard, I look down at my phone. A few seconds later, I hear our neighbor, the wife, shout, "No, don't do that here. Get out of our yard, stop that," in a very panicked voice. Turns out, they were all sitting outside. By the time the neighbor had shouted, it was too late to call my dog back over. She was in the process of giving them a big present. I shout, "Hey, I'm sorry about that. I'll come get it, give me a minute," and call my dog back inside. Dead silence. About 15 seconds go by. I was on my way to my room to throw on pants and a shirt when I heard a muffled shout from the husband. "Come pick this up right now." I chuckled to myself and shouted, "Okay," with a huge grin on my face. I knew what I had to do. I dropped the pants that I had grabbed, I turned right around, picked up a doggy bag by the door, and made my way out the door and into view of the husband, who is standing cross-armed near the pile of poop with a rude expression and posture. The wife and the daughter were also there. Watching the look of anger turn into shock was so satisfying. He was truly speechless, as was the rest of the family. I'm just happy to have a story I can finally share on here. I also think the family is LDS, Mormon, so that is probably the most graphic display of private bits they have ever seen, at least in the non-marital sense. They sound like the type of neighbors who just don't really have anything going on in their lives, so they turn their neighbor's business into their hobby. So chances are, OP's landlord will probably get another call about him pretty soon. Or hey, maybe this whole event got them to find a new hobby. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's stories, and I'll see you next time.